What's going on, guys, and welcome to my Friday Night SmackDown review for Friday, January 29, 2021. I am Graham G.S. Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and enjoying your Royal Rumble weekend. We are just over 24 hours away from when I record this from the Royal Rumble pay-per-view, which, regardless of the circumstances, it's hard not to be excited for the Royal Rumble pay-per-view, no matter how many times they screw over the audience, and not like with last year and the year before. And I will say this, for as many times as WWE has done us wrong with the Rumble before, there have been that many more times, it seems, that they've done right by the Rumble. That being last year with McIntyre, or Rollins in 2019, or Nakamura in 2018. Let's not forget about the good times, too. Those were some pretty good Rumbles. I just got done watching 2019 and 2020. 2020 is still one of my favorite Rumbles I've ever seen. 2018, I was there for that one. Absolutely love that Rumble as well. 2019 was a good one. We've had some good ones in recent years. And I know this is a SmackDown review and not a Royal Rumble preview. You can check out WrestleRant Radio from Thursday for that. Cheap plug. But yeah, we are talking SmackDown, the final show, the final road, or the final pit stop, rather, on the road to the Royal Rumble this Sunday. And I mentioned my excitement for the Rumble, not just because it's tomorrow, but because I feel, as a traditionalist, I think, the purpose of these shows, the final Raw, the final SmackDown before a big pay-per-view, especially the Rumble, should be designed to get you more excited than you were previously for the Rumble. The Rumble obviously sells itself. The Rumble matches sell themselves. If you weren't already excited for the Rumble, for whatever reason, whether it be the bad build on Raw, not so much SmackDown, more so Raw, but to an extent SmackDown, or it just be the circumstances, no fans, and they have to, do the show from the Thunderdome, whatever it might be. If you weren't already excited, I don't think this SmackDown, or definitely not Raw for Monday, which was abysmal, slightly better than usual, but still not a great show. But specifically SmackDown, which is what we're talking about today, I don't think this show would have sold you on the Rumble on Sunday. We did get the obligatory, the show closing brawl with all the superstars, both this time from Raw and SmackDown. And don't let them fool you about how, you can only see the stars of SmackDown and Raw collide one night of the year at Survivor Series, which is fucking bullshit, because that was 2 months ago, and we got a Raw superstar versus a SmackDown superstar against each other on this show. So that's complete crap. But yeah, again, I thought the show was solid. I thought the first hour specifically was really, really good. They furthered feuds along. We got some quality wrestling. The show closing brawl, the aforementioned brawl, did not do a lot for me personally. That just seems like it was designed to kill the final 40 minutes of the show. But it was what it was. This was not a bad SmackDown. In comparison to Raw, this is always the A show. It wasn't quite on par with some of the other recent strong SmackDowns we've gotten, but I thought overall this was a middle-of-the-road thumbs-up show, as I thought the highlights, outweighed the low points, and the good outweighed the bad. So we kicked off the show with Daniel Bryan, kind of cutting the same promo he did last week about vowing to win the Royal Rumble. He's never won a Royal Rumble before, even though he should have in 2014 or 2015, but I digress. So he was interrupted by AJ Styles, and Bryan was talking about the surprises of the Royal Rumble, and that was when he was interrupted by Styles, bringing out Omos, or I'm not sure exactly how you pronounce his name, because it feels like everyone has their own pronunciation for Omos or Omos or whatever. So Styles' bodyguard accompanied him down to the ring, and that's what Styles called him, by the way, on Talking Smack. So that not his bodyguard, but rather his bouncer. That's specifically what Styles referred to him as on Talking Smack, which you can check out my other review for that here in the channel from today. So basically, Styles challenged Bryan to an impromptu match, not right then and there, but later on in the night. Or rather, I think the roles were reversed. Bryan was the one who threw out the challenge to face AJ later on in the show. He pushed him down to kind of set the stage for that match. And I have no problem with this. Usually, with a Raw versus SmackDown match, and I was glad, by the way, that they acknowledged the whole brand-to-brand invitational thing. Because as soon as I heard AJ's music, as much as I love AJ Styles, they really have to, acknowledge the fact that he's a Raw superstar and that he should not be on SmackDown. Thankfully, Bryan did bring that up and almost said that it was because of the brand-to-brand invitational, which he specifically said was a quarterly brand-to-brand invitational. I'm not exactly sure if that means around WrestleMania season, Rumble season, Survivor Series, SummerSlam, whatever, because they were doing this shit in like fucking May of last year randomly, and it wasn't around a big 4 pay-per-view. So interpret that as you will. But that's why Styles was on the show. That's why The Miz was on the show. That's why John Morrison was on the show, among others. I didn't have much of a problem with that. I don't like when superstars switch over, but at least they acknowledged why he came over. And also AJ and Bryan too. It's a match that we've seen multiple times before. Because I saw some people saying on Twitter, oh, why are they giving away such a big match on free TV with very little hype? Yeah, it would have been nice had they, advertised this in advance. But because of the circumstances with a Raw superstar just crashing SmackDown, you couldn't really do that. So I didn't really have a problem with them doing the match on this show. AJ and Bryan have had many, many matches, including at the Rumble itself, for the WWE Championship in 2018, 2019. They had a few matches last year, specifically over the Intercontinental Championship. They've always worked well together. I'll get to their match later on. The first match on the show saw Bayley battle Bianca Belair in what I'm not really sure was the blow-off to their feud, but it was the next chapter. Bayley, remember, beat Belair last month on the final Friday Night SmackDown before TLC. Now, on the final Friday Night SmackDown before the Royal Rumble, Belair gets her win back. This was a good match. They made the most of the time they had. They had a decent amount of time. It was around 11 minutes of, I don't know if that's including commercials or not, but I saw 11 minutes somewhere. They got a decent amount of time here. It wasn't a quick 5-minute match with Bayley once again utilizing heel tactics to beat Belair. Belair got her win back here and has a lot of momentum. More momentum than anyone, obviously, heading into the Women's Royal Rumble on Sunday. And even better than the match itself, I would argue, was the post-match interview with Kayla Braxton and Bianca Belair on the stage. It was emotional. She talked about the Chronicle, which was great, by the way. I reviewed that here on the channel a few days ago, so check that out if you haven't already. She talked about the Chronicle, wanting to win the Women's Rumble, and how it will be the EST at WrestleMania 37. It's gotta be, regardless of whether Bianca wins or not, which I feel like she not has to, because she can always win the Chamber if she loses on Sunday, or, find there's some other way into the SmackDown Women's Championship picture at WrestleMania. But regardless of whether she wins on Sunday or not, it has to be Bianca versus Banks at WrestleMania 37. I did not know that we are getting Sasha and Carmella at the Rumble, by the way, speaking of whom. I didn't know that until I heard about it here. Maybe it's been set in stone for the last week. I don't know. I'm glad I said last week here on the review that a Sasha-Carmella rematch at the Rumble would make sense. We only have, I think, 5 matches currently, now 6 with Sasha and Carmella. We have 2 world title matches, the women's tag team title match, and now Sasha-Carmella. So I'm glad we're getting into the pay-per-view. That's it's been a pretty prominent feud. They've had good matches before, including on SmackDown at the TLC pay-per-view. They've worked well together so far. Carmella in this role has exceeded my expectations. I couldn't really tell you that I was overly excited to see Carmella back in the title picture when she returned a few months ago. But this feud's been pretty good, and I expect the rematch to be good too. I think I know Sasha Banks is going to win, as she should, but I'm glad they're setting it up as a rematch for the Rumble and not just doing it on SmackDown. So we had Dominic Mysterio taking on King Corbin in a rematch after that. I have no idea what the purpose of this feud is supposed to be, aside from just killing time. They've been feuding on and off. Can you even really call it a feud? I mean, Corbin's won literally every fucking time. He's already beaten Rey Mysterio twice. He's now beaten Dominic Mysterio twice. The match was fine. I think Dominic's really good. I think he has a lot of potential. I think Corbin works well with the smaller superstars. The match was decent, but it's hard to care. Corbin with the king shit, I hate to sound like a broken record, but I know I'm not the only one. It got so tiresome a year ago, and it's even worse now. The king shit has got to go. With Dominic, he peaked during the Rollins feud, specifically at SummerSlam. He had that first debut match. He fucking killed it. They had a great match. Rollins kind of carried him, but Dominic is really good in his own right, and that was it. You really can't get much higher than that unless you're going for like a singles title, which they should not have done. They shouldn't do. I think Dominic, his place is in NXT. And if they don't want to move him back down to NXT or move him to NXT, he's never been there before, the Performance Center or whatever, I think chasing the Cruiserweight Championship for him would be perfect, considering that's the same title his dad held over like 20 years ago. But if they don't want to do that, then putting Dominic and Rey in a tag team just makes sense. They need more tag teams on the show. That division is nearly non-existent. And based off what we saw in the main event, it looks like Nakamura and Cesaro are no more, which I'm not complaining about. I'm glad we have Nakamura back as a babyface, but that's a tag team that's since been broken up. We have Rude and Ziggler as the SmackDown Tag Team Champions. I guess Otis and Gable are a tag team, kind of, even though they really haven't teamed up a lot so far. Which is basically just kind of Heavy Machinery 2.0 or American Alpha 2.0, American Machinery, I guess is the nickname. I guess you can call them if you wanted to. We have the Usos, we have the Profits. The Usos aren't around right now, but Jimmy should be back any day now. I'm shocked, honestly, he's not back already. The Profits are there, but they need more teams. We had the Knights of Corbin. I thought that's what they were called. Wesley Blake and Steve Cutler. So unless they just scrapped that, or one of them had COVID, or one of them got hurt, which I'm not sure why they would have gotten hurt because they haven't wrestled yet. I don't know where they went. So they need more teams. Ray and Dominic just makes sense to be in the tag team title picture. Hopefully that's what we get coming out of this Corbin feud, because these matches, while they are well wrestled for the most part, serve absolutely no purpose and are easily the weakest part of SmackDown right now. We need these guys to get some purpose, and this just is not it. It's not working. We had an exchange of sorts between Kevin Owens and the Universal Champion Roman Reigns. I like this. It was the final face-off for the two before the Royal Rumble. We had a side-by-side between the two. It wasn't in person, like, they do one camera and then another camera, where the screens are side-by-side, but they're not actually together. So it's not like they did this in the ring. And this was actually really, really well done. So they brought up how Owens felt he should have won the first two times, but didn't due to the interference from Jay. I don't know what's stopping Jay or anyone else from interfering in the Last Man Standing match. And unless Owens has backup, which it doesn't sound like he does, it wasn't like he said that here, then he is the biggest idiot babyface in the world. He's the dumbest babyface ever for not getting backup to thwart the interference from potentially Paul Heyman, but definitely Jey Uso and anyone else that wants to align themselves or help out Roman Reigns. So I don't think that outcome is going to be really in jeopardy with Roman winning on Sunday, which he should. But I will say, though, the build has been great. The feud has been very, very good. Owens has been great on the mic. He's a pretty goddamn good talker. And Reigns has been awesome, too. So I really, really enjoyed this. They played up the history between the two, why Owens feels like he needs to win. Roman was great in his own role. Owens kind of got under his skin a little bit, and then Roman, in retaliation, turned off his screen. We don't see that we don't see that a lot. We don't see that pretty often, so I thought that was well done. And then Owens got pissed, and I thought Owens would leave and then go find Roman elsewhere in the arena, but that was it. That was the last time we saw either of these guys on the show. And I thought this was a really, really well done segment. They've gotten practically all that they can out of this feud, so I would really hope that Sunday is the blow-off and they're not headed for another match, either on SmackDown next week or at the next pay-per-view, whatever. But I think the feud has been great, regardless of the predictability, unless Owens wins, which I guess he could, but I would hope he doesn't. And I wouldn't be mad if Owens wins, but I just really want this to be the end because they've gotten everything that they could out of this feud. So it feels like it's a proper payoff for the feud on Sunday. But I thought this was great, though. So we get to the main event, Daniel Bryan versus AJ Styles. I was surprised it started so early on in the show, but we quickly found out why they did that. So what we got from Bryan and AJ was very, very good. Shockingly, it was great. I mean, I say that sarcastically, but Bryan and AJ have always had great matches. Their 2019 Rumble match, which lasted almost a half an hour, it wasn't a Rumble match, but it was at the Royal Rumble pay-per-view, bored me to fucking tears. But almost every other match these two have had on SmackDown, TLC, wherever else, has been fucking great. So really no surprise there. They got a decent amount of time. It wasn't like it was a 5-minute match that ended in DQ. It went a while, so they were really allowed to have the match they were capable of before the interference from Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn came out, Big E came out, they all got involved. That led to Bryan teaming up with the Intercontinental Champion Big E, and now babyface, officially babyface Shinsuke Nakamura, against the trio of Styles, Sami Zayn, and Cesaro. So that seems to cement the split of Cesaro Nakamura as a tag team. And it's weird because I assume it was taped last week, but at Superstar Spectacle, which aired on Tuesday, the Indian special WWE did, which was actually decent, by the way. It exceeded my expectations. But at that special on Tuesday, Nakamura and Cesaro teamed up in a 8-man tag team match on the heel team. So this would seem to solidify Nakamura as a babyface. So we got that 6-man tag team match. That was good too, but that also ended in a fucking DQ following interference from The Miz and John Morrison. So that would lead to a first 5-on-4 handicap match which then became a 10-man tag team match after Sheamus came out. So Sheamus, I think, pinned John Morrison or something. It was Sheamus, Big E, Bryan, Nakamura, and Otis beating the team of The Miz, John Morrison, Sami Zayn, AJ Styles, and Cesaro. Again, good for what it was. None of this meant anything, though. That was the problem. They had Raw superstars in there. They had SmackDown superstars. Who the fuck could possibly care? Honestly. This was all designed to build up the Royal Rumble, obviously. And as soon as Sheamus won, by the way, they all started brawling. So it wasn't even really like the outcome meant anything. But at least it was a clean finish following 2 non-finishes. But they were all brawling. The heels got the better of the baby faces. But then who would come out but Braun Strowman? We have not seen since net after the Survivor Series pay-per-view. When on Raw, I think did he attack Adam Pearce? I think he did, or just shoved him or whatever. He was disrespectful to the authority figure, Adam Pearce, got himself suspended. I think in reality he had to have a surgery or he was injured or whatever. Because I think it was supposed to be Strowman and McIntyre at the TLC pay-per-view, and then they changed plans to AJ instead, which ended up being a far better match for obvious reasons. But Strowman comes out, another Raw superstar, but whatever, it's Rumble season, I guess we're supposed to not care about that anyway. So we are supposed to care about Braun Strowman, I would assume. According to WWE. But Braun comes out, lays waste to the heels, and I thought he would attack everybody. But he only attacked the heels. So, I guess this means Braun is a babyface again. He was a heel the last time that we saw him. I guess being humbled by the suspension was what made him turn babyface. I don't fucking know. I have no idea. This guy turns more than the friggin' Big Show. He's the modern-day Big Show. It is so hard to care about Braun Strowman. I thought it was a cool return. And I guess it was better than bringing it back in the Rumble, because I would say, why not just save it for a surprise? I assume they're bringing back enough people in the Rumble match itself, I would hope, to justify bringing back Braun ahead of time. I don't give a fuck about Braun, so even if he was in the Rumble, as long as he doesn't win, it doesn't really make a difference to me whether he's in there or not. He's obviously in the match, but he's not that big of a superstar where it really matters if they spoil the surprise ahead of time. And it made for a cool moment at the end here of SmackDown, so I'm okay with that. But yeah, with Braun, he's had his time. I like the guy. I am a fan of his, but he's done all that there is to do as a former Universal Champion, Intercontinental Champion, Tag Team Champion. He won the greatest Royal Rumble. He's won Money in the Bank before. He's done a lot of stuff. Did he win Mixed Match Challenge? I don't think so. But he's won a lot of other stuff. He's had a lot of accolades over the last couple of years. The Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. That was another thing that he won. That also means absolutely nothing. I'm fine with him being in the Rumble, as long as he doesn't win. So I guess he's a babyface now. It was reported before he was taken off the show a few months ago that they were headed in a babyface, direction for him, which it wasn't apparent at the time, but it was here. I guess I just don't care. I'm not even really sure who you position him against at WrestleMania if he's not in the Battle Royal. Because I don't think, had Roman Reigns not pulled out of Mania last year, Braun would not have even been a part of the show. He honestly probably would have been in the Andre Battle Royal again for like the third or fourth time. And this year would make it the fourth or fifth time, because I just don't see a prominent match for him at WrestleMania that makes sense. Him and AJ, not really. I really don't care about seeing that. If he's on Raw still, assumingly, which he was the last time that we saw him, him and AJ, not really. They've done that match on Raw a few times. It wasn't that great to where I wanted to see it at WrestleMania. I think AJ deserves better than Braun Strowman. Him and Bobby Lashley, maybe. They've already feuded, but not really. Maybe for the United States Championship, but I don't know. Who else is on Raw? Him and Drew, definitely not. Him and Sheamus, maybe, if it makes sense. I don't know. I just really don't care about Braun Strowman. But that did close out SmackDown, which, again, I thought overall was a decent show. Everything up until the first Bryan Styles match I was digging. The multiple restarts and the non-finishes I just could not give two fucks about. It was designed to hype up the Rumble. Did it make me more excited for the pay-per-view than I was previously? The answer is no. But I'm also very excited as it is, as I always am for the Royal Rumble, so it really would not have made much of a difference either way. If I wasn't excited previously, would have this changed anything? Probably not, to be honest with you, but it's the obligatory brawl that we get before every Rumble pay-per-view, so whatever. But it was a thumbs-up show overall, though. I liked Bryan and AJ for as long as it lasted. We got a lot of good wrestling. The Reigns and Owens exchange I thought was great. Bianca and Bayley had a really good match, and Bianca winning. Did I even mention that Bianca beat Bayley? I don't even think I mentioned that. But yeah, they had a good match, and Bianca won as she should have. I think I did mention that. But yeah, they had a good match, and I thought the AJ Bryan exchange to open the show was solid too. So the good outweighed the bad. Corbin and Dominic was fine. Who cares? But the rest of the show is pretty good. So that's my thoughts. Those are my thoughts on the January 29th, 2021 edition of Friday Night SmackDown. Thank you guys, as always, for checking out my SmackDown reviews right here on the channel or on WrestleRant.com every single Saturday. If you're listening on YouTube, be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. And that's about it. We will be back here, most likely, more often than not we are, with another SmackDown audio review next Saturday, so stay tuned for that. Check out my Talking Smack review, which is going up concurrently as this one. I tend to upload them at the same time, so check that out when you get a chance. And more importantly, above all else, enjoy the Royal Rumble tomorrow. Whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, we're going to have a lot to talk about on WrestleRant Radio, the SmackDown audio review, and everything else I do. #AskGSM next week. So I'm looking forward to that as well. Have a great one, guys. Enjoy the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. I'm Graham G. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.